I live up your expectation. So, do you still remember when you received a phone call from INSEAD telling you that you were admitted? Well, that moment for me may be a slightly different story. March of 2017, I submitted my INSEAD application for the round 4 for 18J class. And a week later, I found out that I was pregnant. It was not planned, okay? Let's just put it out there. At the time, I decided to keep the information to myself because nowadays, it's so common for a woman to have miscarriage. If that happened to me, I don't have to deal with it. 2 months later, I got called for an interview. My second INSEAD interview was in Palo Alto. My husband rented a car that day. He drove me down to Palo Alto, waited for me in the parking lot, and then I came back from my interview, and he was ready to drive me home. On the way home from Palo Alto to San Francisco, we passed by East Palo Alto. For anyone who lives in the Bay Area, you know that there's an IKEA in East Palo Alto. And for some reason, I really want to go to the IKEA. So I told my husband, let's go check out IKEA. No, we're not checking out IKEA. If you move to France, you don't need to buy furniture. But what if, in the future, we have a baby, we need a nursery. You go to IKEA, we're not having a baby, you're not getting a nursery. Just what if? Not happening. I'm pregnant. You decided to tell me this now? But anyway, he drove me to IKEA. I was really happy because he's a good driver and we were safe. That's how I broke the news to my husband, and that's how he found out he was about to have a baby. July, I decided to attend the INSEAD French intensive course because I figured being pregnant, I want to only spend 2 periods with the 18J and then take some time for myself and then come back with the 18D class to finish off. So I started early in July in Fontainebleau. The second day of the French intensive course, we were doing self-introduction to each other. And I ran into this guy. After self-introduction, he looked me puzzled. He asked me, "What are you doing here?" That was the first time I felt like I was being judged and people were questioning my intention. So I told him, my mom is a working mother. I went to boarding school when I was 8. It's no big deal. And where he's from, women, after you get married, you have kids, you're a homemaker, you don't go to work. So that's when I realized INSEAD is really diverse and people are coming from different backgrounds, and it's a good stage for me to talk about my experience and to learn about others, and we are different. P1 started, aside from the regular INSEAD life where everyone party, you traveled, I have a little bit of the real life to me, because every other week I had to go to Paris to get my regular checkup. I have a French doctor from the American hospital, but he's still French. Interestingly, Americans and French calculate due date differently. So my American due date was December 16th, and my French due date was December 28th. And the P2 final was December 18th. And my French doctor told me that he has an American wife and he needs to go to the US for Christmas, so he hoped I can deliver before Christmas, but they don't schedule for C-section. It was complicated, as you can tell. So P1 was great. I went to as many parties as possible, but then by the time P2 arrived, I started getting noticeably big, and that's when one of my classmates, a guy classmate, came to me and asked, "Sissy, are you pregnant?" Are you the last person in this whole cohort that didn't realize I was pregnant? It's not appropriate to ask a woman. But yes, by then most people know I was pregnant. I was just getting really big. My course was in Fonty. The classroom was called Class 70. And for those who have been there, the back of Class 70 was extremely narrow. And I could only walk this way. If I turn this way, I'm like, this is the wall, this is the chair. It was getting difficult. So towards the end of P2, I started to skip morning classes. I told all my professors, so they were aware of it. As accommodating as INSEAD was, I was required to meet all the class attendance, and I couldn't miss the exam because if I miss the exam, I have two options. One is redo P2, or I have to take the final 2 weeks after I deliver my due date, which I didn't want to. So P2 come to the end. December 16 was our first final, and it was on my American due date. The 18J classmates in the amphi really cheered me up, and one of the guys turned to me and told me, "Sissy, if your water break, I'm ready to call for you." That never happened, and my baby stayed in, which I was grateful for. After the final, my husband and I moved to Paris. 5 days later, December 23rd, 5 a.m., I experienced my first cramp. Interestingly, before when I asked people, what does cramp feel like, they never told me. They just gave me this mysterious smile and tell me, you will know when you get it. So, yeah, I knew when I get it. So for the lady, it was worse than your worst cramp. For the gentlemen, it's someone kicking on your ball every 5 minutes for 30 seconds long. It was painful. My husband arranged the car, so we rushed to the hospital by 7:30, and I told my husband, if they turn me home, I'm gonna sit in the lobby, I'm not going anywhere. They accept me as soon as we get to the hospital, and we were just waiting. And by 1 p.m., I decided to have my epidural because it was just so painful. And while I was getting my epidural, I cried for the first time that day because the epidural itself was also painful. And then on top of that, I was thinking, what about all the other women who deliver a baby without epidural, like my mom or people who don't have good access to medical care? That was scary. Anyway, we waited until 4 p.m. My husband turned to me, he's like, honey, it's been a long day, I need some fresh air. No, we both haven't eaten anything that day, go ahead. And he took a supposedly 20 minutes break, and it felt like 2 hours for me. And that was when I realized, the relationship between husband and wife is like, the wife will be the quarterback of a football team, American football team, that you will bleed, you will sweat, you will do all the physical work, but your husband will just be as emotionally and financially invested in this relationship. And it was really intense for him. 6 p.m., my doctor came and he's like, you need to start pushing because it's been too long. So we tried, we turned different position, the baby didn't drop. And then it may sound funny, but it was quite stressful. I started there quite early. And then by 7 p.m., they gave me a second epidural, and that was when they told me that I needed a C-section because they think there is a complication. When I get my second C-section, I was very tired. I haven't eaten anything. They moved me to another bed, pushed me to the operation room, and on the way, it was a Saturday, so there was nobody else in the hospital. I felt really helpless and lonely, and I said to myself, if I die this day, this is it. I don't have regret. This is too much. Giving birth sucks. And then they pushed me to an operation room. It's as big as this room. It's pure white, and then I counted like 10 nurses and doctors running around. I thought C-section is a normal procedure that women go through all the time, but why do they need so many people around, which made me really nervous. And I was so tired, all I could say is, please wait until my husband get back. My husband got back, and then they started procedure. We couldn't see anything because they pulled a blue sheet in front of us, so we were on this side. And all we could see was blasting on the blue sheet. And then that was not enough, and then I feel a push on my stomach. Apparently my baby was stopped, so they have to push really hard to push him down, and then they took him out. I was really sick, and then the doctor came to me, he asked, how are you feeling? I'm like, I I'm not feeling well, I want to throw up. So he brought a white plate, I throw up. I was really curious because I haven't been eating anything that day. What could I possibly throw up? And I look at it, it was yellow liquid coming out of me. Just liquid, nothing solid. And then the doctor left, he came back again, he's like, do you want to see your baby? I'm like, are you crazy? I just throw up, I'm really uncomfortable. But then on the other hand, I'm like, Sissy, be a normal person. I turned to him, I'm like, no, thank you. And then to my surprise, this stupid French doctor brought the baby in. I turned, I looked at the baby. I'm like, he's red, he's wrinkled, he looked nothing like me. Like this is it. Like, I went through all this, okay. But then again, I'm like, just to be a normal person, so I kissed the baby, the doctor finally got the baby out of my face. And then later I found out that stupid French doctor the second time was my husband. I was so out that day, I didn't really have to grab what was going on. So after I gave birth, saw the baby, they pushed me to an observation room because I had a C-section. So it was a room, I felt like bigger than this, but darker than this. It was just me and a nurse, and it was cold, just like this. The nurse came to me every 5 minutes, pushing my stomach, make sure things are working down there, I guess, and she gave me a bottle of water. And then later my husband joined me. I was really thankful for him joining me because I felt so helpless and lonely. I couldn't move. Like when I was having a C-section, I was like this. I was like Jesus for a very long time. And then by 11 p.m., they finally finished the observation and pushed me to my room, and that was the first time I saw my parents that day, who have been waited for in my room whole day, and I felt really bad. As I was laying in my bed, the nurse brought the baby into our room, and she asked me, do you want to breastfeed? I'm like, of course I want to breastfeed. I'm a mother. So I said, yes, I want to breastfeed. And out of my surprise, she came to me and she opened my shirt and stuck the baby on my chest. I'm like, not now. I'm exhausted. That was when I had a picture my husband captured. I was like doing this. That was my first breastfeeding. And then the nurse asked me, is this your first child? Do you know how to breastfeed? I'm like, I don't know how to breastfeed. So she's like, let me help you. And then she started pinching my nipples. It was painful. So after I don't know how long, the struggle, she took away the baby and she asked me, do you want to sleep with the baby tonight? And then this time my husband jumped the gun. He's like, yeah, we want to sleep with the baby. Do you know what to do? What if he wake up in the middle of the night? I don't have milk. What are we supposed to do? It's like, oh, okay, maybe we don't want to speak with him. So that was the night. I think that was the night that I became an adult, and I will tell you why. The next morning, I was waken up by two nurses. They came in, they helped me bath, and then another two nurses came in. They gave me some painkillers. At that moment, I counted myself that I have 19 needle pains among my arms and my legs and countless bruises. And it was the first time I saw my C-section scar, which is a 10 centimeter long scar in my lower stomach, and then it was stable or something. And at that moment, I realized I'm permanently a pre-existing condition. For people from the US, you will know that it was a condition that under some conservative party, they think it was not eligible for healthcare in the US. I was I was not happy. I didn't expect that to be my experience of giving birth. I've been a very happy individual and very healthy person throughout my pregnancy. I didn't have morning sickness. And I didn't even research what C-section meant to a woman And then my husband woke up. And out of my surprise, the first thing he said to me was, I'm gonna go to nursery and get the baby. I'm like, wow, that is how parents should be reacting. Okay. And then he brought me the baby. I got to see the baby the second time. He's less reddish, but still he doesn't look like me. That was the day I became a mother, and from there I realized that my world is completely changed. I learned breastfeeding, changing diaper, giving bath, and deal with poopy diaper, burp the baby, all in 4 days when we were in the hospital while I was recovering from this 10-centimeter cut on my lower stomach. After that, I took 4 months maternity leave between Paris and China, came back, joined the 18D class in Fontainebleau in May of 2018. And I was struggling in P3. I had a lot of friends in 18J. Everyone knows this pregnant lady, and so I had friends, but I couldn't hang out with them as much because we have different schedules. At the time, a lot of them already have jobs, so I was like, wow, the future is great for them. And then on the other side, I'm trying to break into the 18D circle, but it was P3. A lot of people already have their small circle. It was not as easy as P1. Academically, I was taking an elective that's way out of my comfort zone and really destroyed my confidence. That was not helping. And then at home, I have my husband, my baby, and my Chinese mother, all in my household because my husband thinks he wanted more help. And because my husband's American, my mom's Chinese, they need me to be the facilitator. So it was a lot going on at home. On top of that, I was breastfeeding, meaning I have to feed my kids every 4 hours. And there were a lot of double sessions. Sometimes the schedule was weird. I have to run home or go to the baby room. I don't know. My life was a mess in P3, and it really was not helping with my confidence. I never felt so helpless. Well, other than the day that I was giving birth. I never felt like I was so lack of confidence, and I didn't feel good about myself. That was when I started to thinking about going into psychology service at INSEAD, but apparently they're very, very busy, so they didn't have time for me. And then I took a break during the summer, did an internship, come back P4. Well, during this process, a lot of people reach out to me, whether they're a future INSEAD student or a student who wanted to apply for INSEAD. They ask me whether they can do it as a mother, as a father, or they can do it as a pregnant person. And I told them, I always tell people that yes, you can do INSEAD as a parent because there are so many other INSEAD parents at school and we all help each other. But I hesitated to encourage women who are pregnant to attend the program because at the end of the day, I realized how lucky I was. The timing was perfect. If my baby were coming early or then I have to retake P2, it's just so much pressure on me. And then P4, I came back, I participated in the recruitment season with the 18D class, and I didn't do any consulting recruitment, which is different from a lot of people because at that time I decided lifestyle is very, very important to me, and I want to make sure that I can spend time with my kids while he grow up. Now it's P5, I really want to share my story because I think it is interesting to people, and I also want people to know because the experience itself meant a lot to me. I know different people will have different takeaway from this story, but there are a few things that I want to make sure that everyone know. First is being a parent is very difficult. You're gonna lose sleep. You're gonna do things for a person that you don't know very well, but you would do so much for him or her that you cannot imagine you do it for anyone else. You're gonna, if you're a mother and you're breastfeeding, this person's gonna be 100% relying on you, and you are this person's food source. That's a lot of responsibility, and it it is just difficult. Actually, last week, my husband finally confessed to me that when my son was 1 month old, he decided he never wanted to be a stay-home dad again. And also last week, I was late for a class and I ran into another 18D parent, and we just look at each other. We look at each other like, I know why you're late. And then he asked me, have you ever used parent as an excuse? I'm like, no, have you? He said, no. And then I realized, a lot of our fellow students are parents, but we want to be presentable and we want to be on campus, look just like everyone else, but there are a lot of behind the scene work that the parents have to do. That's, for me, 11 months ago was unimaginable. If being a parent is so tough, why do people still have kids? That's my second reflection that I want to share with you, is that I think my kid is my inspiration. For the past 11 months, I saw him open his eyes, smile, turn his body, sit. Now he can stand, and possibly next month he can walk. He grows so much and he develops so much. So from time to time, I ask myself, what do I do? How do I advance myself to match his speed of growth? How can I be a person so that when he grows up, he can look at me and see me as a role model? I think, to me, he is just his motivation, he's my inspiration. The third point is, once you become a parent, your world will completely change. Before I was a mother, I come to campus, people will say, hi Sissy, how are you today? Oh, yeah, I'm doing great, and that's it. After I become a mom, I come to campus and be like, hey Arthur, how are you doing? I use Arthur because there are a lot of them. Like, hi Arthur, how are you doing? Arthur will be like, I'm doing great. How's Maximo? Maximo's doing great. Oh, next time you bring Maximo to campus, make sure you say hi to, make sure he say hi to me. I'm like, okay. And then Arthur walk away. I'm like, okay, I'm doing okay too. Yeah. So life will change, but it's gonna be fun, and that was my story. Thank you.